Today on Larry King Now, legendary soccer superstar Brandi Chastain.
Never did I see myself ever winning the World Cup, and so when it happened, there's this rush of emotion and adrenaline and relief and joy that you can't, one, anticipate, and you surely can't define, that just, it comes over you.
Was it hard to retire?
Absolutely. Very difficult to retire. I didn't want to. It wasn't my choice. In sports, I think, unlike a lot of other things, somebody else tells you when it's time. Sometimes your heart is still in it, your head is still in it, but, the coaches get to make choices.
What do you see as your greatest accomplishment?
Using soccer as a vehicle for positive change, doing community work and being a good community servant, it has been something that's changed not only my life, but other people as well.
Plus,
FIFA as a governing body for a long time have not been supportive of women's soccer, and still, across the board need to do better.
all next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. My special guest is Brandi Chastain, the legendary professional soccer player. Before retiring in 2010, Brandi won 2 Olympic gold medals and 2 World Cup championships with the U.S. women's soccer team. She's widely known for her game-winning penalty goal kick in the 1999 World Cup championship at a sold-out Rose Bowl stadium. Her reaction to winning the game-winning goal, of course, spawned one of the most famous images in sports history, putting her on the covers of Sports Illustrated, Newsweek, and Time magazine. Recently, Brandi became a member of the 2016 U.S. National Soccer Hall of Fame. How did you learn of that?
I got a call from the U.S. Soccer president, Sunil Gulati, saying that I had been voted into the Hall of Fame. So it was very surprising and very humbling and just unexpected.
Very surprising?
To be honest with you, I never started playing soccer or continued to play soccer with a dream or a thought about being in the Hall of Fame. That was never the objective. So I guess in a way, it just wasn't in the forefront of my mind.
What was the ceremony like?
No, it hasn't happened yet.
Oh,
so
when?
They actually are working on a date. So the Hall of Fame used to be in Oneonta, New York, and we've just broken ground on a new Hall of Fame at FC Dallas. They're going to put it inside the stadium. So that will be, I think, opening up in 2018. So now it will be, so people can come and go to the stadium, see a game, see the Hall of Fame. But it will be sometime this year. We just haven't figured out the date.
Yeah, the Racing Hall of Fame for jockeys is at the Saratoga track.
As well, that's where it should be.
Yeah, you're damn right. That's where people go. How many are being inducted with you? 3.
One of my teammates, Shannon McMillan, and the commissioner of Major League Soccer.
Was it hard to retire?
Absolutely. Very difficult to retire. I didn't want to. It wasn't my choice.
They retired you?
Well, I think from the national team is more so my, thinking back on my professional career lasted a little bit longer than my national team career. In sports, I think, unlike a lot of other things, somebody else tells you when it's time. Sometimes your heart is still in it, your head is still in it, but, the coaches get to make choices.
How old were you when you retired?
Oh, gosh. Old. Yeah, older than most, in my late 30s.
The legs go first, right? Is that what they say? They say, I know in baseball, the baseball player will tell you.
Yeah.
The legs go first.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a physical component that, maybe it's the explosiveness. But, in a game like soccer, explosiveness can be a great advantage, but it's not necessary to have that to be a really great player.
Where do you keep your gold medals from the Olympics?
I have one in a frame, and I carry another around with me so I can share it.
You do? That's a nice idea. You have one with you?
Oh,
you didn't bring
Larry,
one
darn it.
me.
I should have.
It's okay, Brandi.
You've had so many, I'm sure, really special people here that I thought, oh, he's already seen one of those.
What was it like for you to stand up there when they played the national anthem?
It's hard to put into words. I think I'll tell you, my first real memory of the Olympic Games was 1980, when the men's hockey team won the gold medal.
Lake Placid.
Yes, so I was 12 years old, and I live in California, so there was no reason for me to be interested in hockey, but there was something special about that team when they beat Russia in the semifinals that drew my attention. And being a sports person, even more attention. And then when they won, and all of a sudden it was Mike Eruzione and Jim Craig and Jack O'Callahan, and next thing you know, I was swelling with pride, and I remember literally saying to myself, I want to do that. And it wasn't play hockey, it was, I want to wear that red, white, and blue. I want to celebrate on the podium. And I mean, I get
Jim
chills
Craig looking for his father.
Amazing, right? So that was my inspiration. So I think to be in the stadium and have that chance to take that step onto that podium was a life-altering experience.
How will our women do this year?
They have an excellent chance of winning, as they always do. I think that's been a part of the DNA of the U.S. women's national team, is to find a way to win.
They do better than the men. The men aren't going, right?
The men aren't going. They didn't qualify, but it's not that they do better than the men. You know, we have a great luxury being female athletes in the world of sports because our country is progressive, more progressive than other countries about the participation and the acceptance of women in sport, even though we're still talking about equal pay. And
yeah, why are we behind in that?
I think like most things, I mean, you probably have talked about it many times in politics too. It's, you know, changing people's perception, and sometimes it's cultural. You know, those things take time. You don't turn those things around overnight, but I feel we're closer than we've ever been, and I feel in my lifetime, pretty soon, that will happen.
How come so many females are now into coaching males?
I honestly think it's just you want to be challenged, and you want to coach, and you want a chance to, I think, like anybody else, if there's a proving ground, why not take the opportunity?
Men have coached women's basketball for a long time.
Absolutely.
In fact, the most
It's just a game.
successful.
I honestly feel that it's, exactly, I think it doesn't have to do with coaching men, even though I coach high school boys varsity soccer, for example. You know, it was a challenge to go into that arena and to see if I could use the information that I know goes across the board, gender, you know, it doesn't matter what gender it is, but can I communicate and get my point across and find a common ground with these young men? And can they understand where I'm coming from and take the information and be better off at the end? And so for me, it was just a challenge.
In fact, when Popovich leaves, a woman may be the coach of the San Antonio Spurs.
Absolutely.
Next, we revisit that famous penalty kick at the 1999 World Cup. We'll talk about gender equality more. Stay with us. We're back with Brandi Chastain, one of the great athletes ever, and now a member of the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame. Okay, what happened? 1999, you kicked that. What went through your mind on that shot?
Well, leading up to that whole tournament, you know, we did a lot of training, preparation, you know, looking at the opponents that we would play, you know, the different game plans. Ultimately, what happened prior to that kick was I went back to earlier in the year we played China, and in the run of play, if there was ever a penalty kick, I would be the person to take it. So Mia Hamm was chopped down in the box, we get a penalty kick. I step up, I take the ball from the referee, and as I place the ball down, there in front of me is standing the goalkeeper. So we're like two boxers in the middle of the ring. Now this is very unusual. The goalkeeper normally stays on the line and prepares
Why was
her or
she
himself.
so close?
Because she was a quirky character. Goalkeepers are a little bit off, you know, they're different than all the other players on the field. But, you know, she did something to her advantage. She got me out of my rhythm, and she kind of gave me a smile and a wink, and I wasn't focused the way I should have been. Referee blew the whistle, I shot the ball, it hit the crossbar, went out, we ended up losing that game. Fast forward to the World Cup final in the Rose Bowl, and the only thing going through my head was, don't look at the goalkeeper, because I didn't want to give her that chance again to do what she did.
Did she come forward again?
And no, she didn't come forward again, but later on she was interviewed and asked about that moment, and she said the reason she found it so difficult against us in those 5 kicks was that nobody would look her in the eye, and she didn't get an advantage, so I was like, yes. I was thankful that she had done that earlier.
What made you take your shirt off?
I have no idea. You know, that moment where you've probably thought about it as a kid, but only in like, oh, you know, 3, 2, 1, and you shoot the last one, or you hit the last home run and it's a walk-off, or, you know, as a kid, I had those moments on the playground, but never did I see myself ever winning the World Cup. And so when it happened, there's this rush of emotion and adrenaline and relief and joy that you can't, one, anticipate, and you surely can't define, that just it comes over you. And I think it was just a moment of great satisfaction. I was super happy the game was over and that we had won. And maybe in the back of my mind, like we were talking about baseball a little bit, you know, you've seen maybe some of the players in when you're a younger player, do that in celebration, and maybe that was a part of it, but it was extreme joy, extreme happiness.
Wayne Gretzky told me once, there have been times when before he shot the puck, he saw it go into the net.
Oh, yeah.
You had that?
Absolutely. All the time. And I tell young kids now, I think there's a very big influence that your mind can have over the things that you do if you can image them beforehand. And so you spend 5 minutes thinking about all the right things you want to do. And I practiced penalty kicks over and over leading up to that World Cup and for 30 years before that. And I always see myself doing it right. Always.
The U.S. women's team officially filing a lawsuit against the Soccer Federation. You support it?
Absolutely. And it's not just, this is not the first time that this conversation has happened.
It's about pay?
It's about pay. But I think it's more than that, Larry, to be honest with you. I think it's about the way U.S. soccer and the rest of the world see women in sports, and in this case, specifically soccer. I mean, FIFA as a governing body for a long time have not been supportive of women's soccer, and still, you know, across the board need to do better to help countries in, let's say, Africa or South America or, you know, Asia, wherever it might be, to support women's soccer for all the good that it will do from the grassroots level all the way up to the professional level. We represent soccer no differently than the men who play it.
They've got a lot of problems, FIFA.
We're getting better. I think we're starting, hopefully, anew.
Think the men are going to improve?
Well, they're improving all the time. I think we
Is
have.
it cyclical? Or?
No, I think for us it's a little bit different. You know, the rest of the world plays on a different schedule than we do. Our professional league plays during the spring to the late fall. The rest of the world plays from the fall until the spring. And half of our players play across the world and half of our players play here. And to get the best 20 or 24 together and then gelling at the right time is really, really tough.
What causes international soccer fans to be insane? Because why does that game produce insanity?
Because it's so ingrained in the culture and the communities in which these teams come from, let's say on a professional level. That's where it's started. You know, you have a blue-collar working town that has a team. That team represents the people. And when that team is doing well, everybody feels like they're thriving. And when they're not doing well, it seems oppressed.
Like when Ireland did well.
Exactly. Or, you know, I think, you know, on a lesser scale, but like when you see, you know, fans from Philadelphia, from New York, they're so passionate about it. But this is more about survival for these people, where literally if your used to be son and hopefully now daughters could be a football player or a soccer player, they could get their way out of this neighborhood and they could really impact the whole country in such a positive way. And I just think it's such an emotional game.
What drew you to it?
Nothing in particular. I was very athletic when I was a small girl, and if I was on the top of the roof or climbing the tree or on my skateboard jumping over things, I think this was the first organized thing that came to my neighborhood, and my parents said, oh, we got to sign her up for something. And it was love at first kick.
You were a tomboy.
By definition, probably, yes.
After the break, Brandi is lending her voice to a new cause. We'll learn about it after this. We're back with Brandi Chastain, who recently led her voice to a cause that hits close to her home, the IBD Gameplan. Right. What is IBD?
Inflammatory bowel disease. And Which means, well, there's two types that are most common, Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. And basically it's where your intestines get inflamed, and it causes all kinds of different symptoms to multiple individuals. So it's never the same twice. If you and I were both diagnosed, we wouldn't know why and where it came from. But a year ago yesterday, my son, who's now 10, was diagnosed, and leading up with Crohn's disease, and leading up to that, he was experiencing some physical symptoms.
Difficulty in the bathroom?
Yeah, multiple times, like many, many times a day, having accidents at school. Eventually, the physical symptom that caused us to really get to the doctor was what's called a fistula, which is, in his case, looked like a little boil. And immediately when we went to the pediatrician, she said, you need to go and see a pediatric gastroenterologist. And now Crohn's, gastroenterologist, IBD, these were not in my vocabulary. I had heard them, but never really knew what they were all about. So when we got to the gastroenterologist, he said, from the looks of things, we will do tests, but from the looks of things, I believe that your son has Crohn's.
And how is that treated?
It's treated in a multitude of ways. Again, these diseases, these chronic diseases are very individual specific, and I think that's what makes them so difficult at times to treat, because your symptoms could be different from mine. But ultimately, you said IBDGameplan.com is a great resource where people can locate gastroenterologists. They can get tips and tools to help them find treatment and find therapies that work for them specifically.
How's your son doing?
Great. My son has now found a treatment through medication that allows him to be on the swim team, go to baseball camp, golf, do all the things that normal kids do. We'd like to get on top of this before. Early detection is really important, and that's why I think we're having this conversation, is from my standpoint as the support and the caregiver of someone who has been diagnosed, what can I do now to help him, and how can I be supportive in a matter-of-fact way? You know, this is a disease in a situation where it's uncomfortable for some people to talk about.
All ages?
All ages. The primary group is usually 18 to 35, and so
Men and women.
Men and women. It's an awkward stage in your life. It could be your first love. It could be graduating college, first job, a lot of stress, and those are things that can really push this over the edge. But for Jaden's case, which I think, again, as a parent, I'm relieved to know that he understands now that this is a part of his life, and we've moved on, and we will know that we may have to be agile and make changes in his treatment or his therapy, but now we're ready for that.
People want more information, you go to IBD Gameplan.
Yes. Do you know how many people have IBD?
How many?
You're a baseball guy. So you take 30 of the Major League Baseball parks and you fill them to the rim. There still will be 300,000 people standing outside. I'm talking all the stadiums across America will be full, plus 300,000 people waiting. So imagine if those people are diagnosed, how many out there haven't been diagnosed? And so for me, empowering them to step up and get a diagnosis, and then awareness to the general public.
Okay, let's play a little game of If You Only Knew.
Oh, okay.
Toughest team you competed against?
Brazil.
Most underrated soccer player ever?
Michelle Akers.
Member of Team USA who will emerge as a star of the Olympics?
Julie Johnson and Mallory Pugh. I had to give two, sorry.
Earliest soccer memory?
Scoring a goal with my left foot, I think I was 10 years old, against the San Jose Rovers at Steinbeck Park.
At Steinberg.
Yeah.
If not soccer, then what?
Anything physical.
Biggest pet peeve?
Rude people.
Toughest defender you ever faced?
Probably Joy Fawcett from the U.S. Women's National Team.
The most nervous you got before a game?
When I used to be a bench player in 1991 for the Women's World Cup. My first time the coach said, "You're going to go into the World Cup," I thought I was going to throw up. Yeah.
Feeling you had during the national anthem after your first gold medal?
Immense pride.
Best piece of advice you ever got?
My grandfather, he used to give me $1 when I scored a goal, but $1.50 when I made an assist. It was better to give than receive.
Funniest fan encounter?
Oh, young men wearing sports bras.
Toughest crowd you ever faced?
Oh, in Brazil. That's a tough crowd.
Favorite stadium you ever played in?
Oh, gosh, the Rose Bowl.
Something you know now that you wish you knew earlier in your career?
That fitness does make a difference in the outcome, and that nutrition really can change the way you play.
In our final moments, Brandi will take your questions. Don't go away. We're back with the great Brandi Chastain. We have some social media questions.
Okay.
Dig Muzak on Twitter. Do you still have the famous black bra you wore in the '99 World Cup final?
I do. I had initially donated it to a museum in New York City, and unfortunately that museum closed down, and the bra went to a storage locker in New Jersey, and I had to fight to get it back, and I got it back just before the 10th anniversary, and now I thought maybe I should just keep it in my house. So I have it in a frame at my house.
I hope you framed it.
Yes, I do now.
That should go somewhere.
It should, right?
Probably worth a lot of money. If you put it on the open market to collectors, if you have a down
I think
and
initially
out,
somebody actually offered some money for it, and I never wanted anybody to think that that was the reason why the celebration happened.
Damn You Brian asks, what do you, I love these monikers, what do you see as your greatest accomplishment?
Using soccer as a vehicle for positive change, starting a nonprofit in the Bay Area called the Bay Area Women's Sports Initiative called Bossy Girls. I think getting in line and helping safersoccer.org to recognize that heading in youth soccer needs to be examined more, and the age limit needs to be raised to a higher age. And then I think working with AbbVie, partnering with AbbVie on this IBD Gameplan and the website, because now as a parent and a team member for my son, that there's a lot of people out there that need help, and if I have a chance to voice something on their behalf, I should do it. So I feel like doing community work and being a good community servant, it has been something that's changed not only my life, but other people as well.
And on the Larry King Now blog, do you want your kids to follow in your soccer-playing footsteps?
I want my kids to do what makes them happiest. Soccer happens to make me extremely happy. My youngest son, Jaden, loves reading, he loves computers, and he's finding that he loves swimming.
Was your oldest son an athlete?
He played soccer as well, so I enjoyed watching him. But I want them to do what makes them happiest, and I want them to find that thing on their own, not because of me.
Mary O'Rourke on the Larry King Now blog. How did you celebrate the night you won the World Cup, especially the 1999 championship? It would be an O'Rourke would ask how you celebrated it.
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, we were a pretty subdued group. Our families and our friends came back to the hotel, and I think we had dinner, and I think we just hugged and we laughed, and I think we just sat around like, oh my gosh, did we just do that? And then it became a whirlwind, you know, going here, there, and everywhere, sharing the story.
Marina Shirley on the Larry King Now blog. Who do you view as the greatest soccer player ever?
Oh, that's male or female?
Either, both.
You know, I really feel that Michelle Akers from the U.S. Women's National Team was well before her time. She was a player that was as hard as she was graceful, as passionate as you'll ever meet. Just, you know, two-footed giant. She was like the Abby Wambach before anybody knew, but a midfielder.
Male?
I watched Pelé as a kid, and it was a remarkable thing to see him and the way he played. I was surely influenced by him. I think Leo Messi is a close second.
How about the guy now, Rodolfo, what's his name?
Oh, Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, I think Ronaldo's very good. I mean, no one's going to deny that he's a good player. I think Leo Messi is a step above him. The pace and the quickness and the vision that he plays with is just, it's like nobody else has that.
I remember watching with Bob Greasy, the great Dolphin quarterback. I used to do color on the Miami Dolphins. We were on the road and we were watching television in the afternoon, and Pele was playing.
Yeah.
And Greasy said he didn't understand soccer at all, but he said that is a great athlete.
I think what he and Leo Messi, Michelle Akers all share in common is this incredible balance. You know, they could be going full speed and get knocked, what you would think would knock most people over, but yet they just have the ability to stay up and to have a connection to the ball that seems to never get away from them, and it's inspirational.
Marina also asks, who's in your opinion, is the greatest athlete ever?
Oh my gosh. Well, having grown up in San Jose, California, I watched Bruce Jenner, now Caitlyn Jenner, as a young girl.
Bruce Jenner was an incredible athlete.
I watched him train at San Jose City College, and I just thought, wow, that is pretty spectacular.
Decathlon is.
Yes.
Drew Bruttner on the Larry King Now blog. Will we ever see a reunion of the '99 team? Maybe a reunion game?
Maybe we'll play the 2016 Olympic champions. How about that? That would be fun. No, we have, you know what, we get together. We don't get together as a full group, but some of us get together when we're in the same place, and we love each other. I think the one reason, Larry, that we were really successful, and most teams are successful, is because they really care about each other, and we're friends more so than teammates.
You ever kick the ball around?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, doll.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for all you do.
Big thanks to my guest, Brandi Chastain. Visit IBDGameplan.com and read more about our efforts to fight inflammatory bowel diseases. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at KingsThings. I'll see you next time.